Dynamite Download.
Dynamite Download, your home for all positive coverage on all elite wrestling.
Promo, like the DMV. There.
This is the Symphony Boys.
The
Symphony of five.
Download, you guys. Positive energy. You have a great. Your tribal fruit.
Along, I come along in the.
Well, actually, I did see that, and I was thinking.
John Silver, welcome to the show, John. How you doing?
More than a taste. We were
More than
a
taste.
Cold spray. Tired of the cold spray.
I went to back to do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
You!
Hot off the press, hot off a great week. Welcome to Dynamite Download. And I know thank you, Mind Garcia over there. Which actually, I was quick to touch on that. When I saw the graphic of that trios match that they announced, I was like, all right, I'm excited because there's so many. Welcome everybody to the show. It is officially, I know we've done some kind of specials, but it's episode 99 on the books of the typical Dynamite Download. Other ones have been kind of special shows, so I haven't really included them as, let's say, per se, Dynamite Download, quote unquote, because it's been the week in review. But 99 is wild. And thank you, Mind Runner, for joining us, joining me, SPD.
Cheers.
Mind Runner, cheers to that. And the fallout from All In that we got in on Dynamite last night, and like you said, you kind of see maybe there is a little bit of jet lag, but rightfully so, because it was a home run show, and we're going to dive deep into that tomorrow night on our all-in recap, all-out preview combo show with the Crayfish, the trios belts that we are going to have, us three, we're gonna dominate that.
Yes.
But before we dive into Dynamite, I want to talk really quick about that all-out weekend. What, right off the top of your head, what three superstars that weren't featured on the show are you kind of surprised and really wish that maybe someone deserved based on their tenure or what they've been doing lately? Or any three standouts that you think really, really should have been on the show? Injury side.
I'm known to confuse All In and All Out. I've never done that before. But are you referring to the upcoming pay-per-view, or are you talking about this past weekend?
This past weekend, the big dog.
I would have. I love Willow. I think she's a sweetheart. I missed the Hobbs and Miro interaction, and
so did I. I missed that too.
But then I got to see clips of that and all that, so that was really cool. I thought that was pretty awesome. I think I go back to Willow. I would have liked to have seen Kip Sabian in action, because he's. This is his hometown. This is homeland. Unless he's officially an expatriate and has shunned the UK land, and now he's Philadelphia. But I would have liked to have seen Kip in action in some way. And I think that, don't get me wrong. I don't want to spoil the preview, but I thought the All In pay-per-view is one of the best they've ever had. But I do think
it delivered. It definitely delivered.
The top three standouts that I missed. I missed seeing Willa. I missed seeing Kip Sabian and Nyla. I think I would have liked to have seen Nyla. Other than that, I you know what? I would have liked to have seen Sammy in action.
Agree.
Not just that. I know he's got the storyline going, but I would have liked to have seen him in action in some way. And I think that would have been good.
It was, I'm surprised they didn't do a gimmick match where they could just, essentially flood the card with the people that are not necessarily have like a strong program going on at the moment, like the Kips and all that. So it would have fit in a 0 hour, or they could have done, a chance, at a future title shot, or whatever it may be. So I think they could have done that. There was room for that, in my opinion, and it would have been a safe thing to do, because you could have thrown Sammy in there early if it was like a buy-in one, or maybe one early on in the card, a Kip in there, so you can get those cheap pops and keep the crowd going. And
they should have had some kind of battle royal, I think. Agree. And you could, because royal, you could have used the word royal. because of London and had this whole, and then, this was such a historic moment. It's a shame that not everybody got to say they wrestled in Wembley Stadium, and who knows how much of the roster is going to be the same this time next year. Yeah. And I just thought of Emi Sakura. Her whole gimmick used to be centered around Freddie Mercury. And she didn't get a chance.
Is a little, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now she's more like the queen, but still, she's the evil queen. And it would have been, and that brings the thought of Athena. Now, granted, I'm thinking of a lot of women's wrestlers, but and Athena's the ROH champion. They could have at least shoehorned in. Athena versus Emi Sakura would have been a slapper. Even if it was just a quick. Even if it was just a fill-in match, it would have been tremendous. Anyways,
I would have, less RJ pre-show and more matches.
Yeah,
but the three that stick out to me, of course, I mean, it comes at no surprise. I would say Wardlow, Lance Archer, and Thunder Rosa.
Yeah,
that is a core. Or to me, like some big names that unfortunately, who knows what's going on with all three of them. I know Lance has been posting some stuff. Seems like some personal stuff going on. Had to cancel a show, I believe, this weekend. So wish him the best because he's an awesome dude and has always been nice to us. But all that aside, we loved the stuff he did in AEW when he had his chance to shine.
Mm-hmm. Those are three people that, like, I'm sure there's stuff we don't know.
Yeah.
Lance is the most puzzling because
You're right.
Lance should come back and just murk people and be this monster. But I don't know if Tony Khan's waiting for the right moment to bring him in, but that's who he should be. He doesn't have the monster. As soon as you hear his music, you should be like, oh crap, someone's going to get murked. And that's what he used to be at back during the pandemic era. But it's like, that's kind of gone. I know they're waiting for the right moment for her that we may see her at All Out. We may see something. She's coming. She's coming. We're going to get that Thunder pop. I just don't know how they're going to present that. Wardlow, man, we could do a separate show on what's going on with Wardlow, man. I don't
hot takes on that.
I mean, I compare Wardlow to Henry Cavill in that you've got this commodity that just seems to be not written well. Does that make sense? Like what I'm saying? And it's no fault of his own. It's like, I just think the booking, however it's been, and I'm sure there's reasons behind it. It just like, I call him Wardlow and it's, I hate to say that on him. It's because his storylines just aren't, he needs a jump start. If there's any wrestler right now that needs and I don't even know if it's a repackage, but Wardlow needs something. And I don't think it's like he needs to just have some kind of change where he's just dominating. But
those were fun times where he was on that. And then when he had his title runs, I mean, he did show, he was doing the Powerbomb Symphony, loved it. The whole crowd, the Goldberg style entrance, all that to me was working really well. And then he did start to elevate his game a lot when he was doing the high spots, the Swanton bombs and stuff that we didn't typically see. And I was like, many layers were added quickly to his repertoire and was very impressed. But it's just the stop and go with him was his demise. Yeah.
That TNT tennis match between him, it was him, Powerhouse Hobbs, back to him. Now, Christian Cage is the bearer of the TNT title for Luchasaurus, the champion, but we all know the real thing.
Hey, wait. Well, let's talk some Dynamite last night. It was a thinner show than usual, but it had a lot of, especially for being a post all in, pre all out, go home show. It's a weird position, it's a Dynamite between two pay-per-views, not with much time to build, but they were able to fill this all-out card pretty quickly last night. We'll just jump around. What match, leave it to you, put the card on the ball in your court. What match or segment do you want to start with based on last night's Dynamite? Because there's a couple of standouts for me that I would love to talk about, but let's go back and forth. Let's go wild.
Well, if you right off the bat, just like, and I'm glad you shifted it to segment because, I mean, this is definitely, I call it like the jet lag post. This show is going to be one of those, like you're coming off one of the biggest pay-per-views ever, and now you're getting ready for the other one. If they just had nothing but segments, I would have been fine because I wasn't expecting as much. Granted, they probably had a lot of scrambling backstage anyways because of the fallen from All In or walking on broken glass,
a hurricane.
Yeah, a hurricane situation, smacking everyone.
Cross country travel.
There was at least one or two superstars that were sick because there is virus going around, and then on top of that, some uncertainty on who was going to do what and where and the other thing. So, considering all that, the segment that stood out to me the most was the unveiling of the new acclaimed trios titles. I thought that was tremendous. That was fantastic.
That was very unique. Very unique. I mean, okay, I was like, oh, sweet, the pink titles. I like that champions are. I'm on both sides of the coin. I like the history of a belt being passed along, but I also like the fact that AEW is really leaning into adjusting the belts because when I didn't notice and I don't remember, maybe you can chime in. And when did House of Black turn those belts all black and silver and they didn't have gold? Because they handed them over at All In, they were different belts. And when they came out with the belts yesterday, did you notice that?
I did. It didn't. I can't say when they did it because when you're watching House of Black come out, it's like you're watching a whole production.
Yeah.
You're sitting there like, oh wow, and so it's hard to tell what's special effects and what isn't. But yeah, it wasn't until last night that I realized how different the previous belts were.
Right.
I love changing a belt. I love when wrestlers make a belt their own. The most interesting thing that Scorpio Sky ever did in wrestling was have the LA Lakers belt. Now, I like Scorpio Sky. I hope he gets a good storyline at some point, but I thought that was pretty cool. Miro's belt was really awesome. A lot of those different customizations, but the back of those belts though, that's what won me over.
Yeah, it's so unique, and that was kind of like the cherry on top. I think it's such a unique thing, and I'm so glad that Daddy Ass is back. And I think that storyline worked really well. And I think House of Black, I think the world of them, they're fantastic. On paper, House of Black as a trios group pretty much could and should be unbeatable. But obviously, it's more to it than that. The storyline was just a great feel good moment of the night. I think it was a good positioning for the card, the second to last match. And then after following in a fantastic match with Will Ospreay and Chris Jericho. But yeah, these belts, a new era of the acclaimed.
Yes.
You don't want any of that motivating or that momentum to slow down at all. And this is just going to keep going and keep going. And as long as I think Daddy Ass wants to go, they're going to keep that gold for a while. And so these belts look so cool. It's almost like a gate. Like you look at it from far, it looks like an alligator chewing something, but it's so cool. They're going to sell a lot of those, I think.
And you're right about that being a feel-good moment. That whole segment was like a Valentine to fans. It was like eating a big thing of cotton candy. Everybody was smiling. I mean, the fact that the Scissor Me thing has taken off and the Acclaim have become so popular. Like the last when we went to AEW Dynamite this past November when they were here in Virginia Beach, everybody was scissoring each other. I mean, it's become kind of like the new fist bump, the new high five, and it's like I think it's tremendous. I think it's great, and it's great to see Daddy Ass being so over now. Especially the stunt they kind of pulled with the DX reunion at WWE, and they kind of poked fun at him.
Yeah.
And, they're like, I think he's selling office supplies, and now look how over Daddy Ass is. That to me, that's
very
really
over.
Great stuff.
Very, very over. That is an understatement. I think this Acclaim stuff is great stuff, and the House of Ass is here to stay for a while. I wonder if that was improvised or not. But the match I want to talk about is the main event. And I know jumping all around,
That's cool.
you know, we might not cover everything, but we're going to cover some of our favorite moments of the night.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, I'm a huge mark for the Lucha Brothers. I love Ray Phoenix is in my top 3 of all time AEW. Penta and Ray Phoenix to me are my favorite tag team. And that, you know, that's with a filled tag team division now with obviously Young Bucks, FTR, Chris Jericho, the Sex Gods, the Bullet
Yes.
Club, the Guns, the Hardys, you know, Aussie Open, Top Flight. You know, this is a deep, deep division, but Lucha Brothers have always been standouts to me. Just the impressive stuff. And to me, this is Penta's best singles match in AEW I've seen. I think he showed he's had some great matches, and I think the strength he was able to showcase when he was pressing Orange Cassidy over his head, I've never seen that. And so to act as like the bigger guy and the stronger guy, I love the back and forth of this. And you know, we've talked on our shows and all of us here at DD about the love-hate relationship, I guess, with OC right now. And the more he's performing and putting on matches like this, the more he's gaining my respect. And I do respect him dearly with all of his title defenses. And what he had to say after the match too was a surprise as well. A little jab and a little funny spot with, you know, not having a catchphrase, but it's a different side we're seeing of OC. It's not the sunglasses, hands in pocket gimmick with walking out with best friends and stuff. So it's still gimmicky, but it's very, very, very toned down, and it's a lot more. But my biggest gripe is, and even for the main event of All In, I hate roll up wins. I hate it. I know it's part of the tactics, part of storylines. But when Penta hit those 2 finishing moves and right before he got rolled up, that one, what is his move with the arms tucked and the pile driver? Like the one he hit on at the end was absolutely brutal. He jumped up and I was just like jaw dropped. So man, Penta says A+ match from him, and wow, did he show up tonight or last night on Dynamite's main event?
The most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll up. You know, that is the most devastating. Well, okay, here's what's interesting though. Like, that's the move that bothered you, and I understand why. Personally, I like it. I think it can be overused, but I thought it's fine. And I think it fits the storyline with Orange Cassidy. I don't know if I can, this is the first time I've can share a screen, but can you see what I'm sharing? This is kind of how this sums up Orange Cassidy.
Here, I'll put it says add a scream. There we go.
This sums up Orange Cassidy weekend at Cassidy's. You know, because this is weekend at Cassidy's. This is how basically how his reign has been. I mean, he's about to die, but somehow he pulls off the win. And I think that's kind of like, I think we're getting close to the end of his title reign. I mean, he's talking about how tired he is, but he's just this like somehow he wins. And
I don't think we're going to see him beat Mox. Not many people in the company have ever beaten Mox. And if you have it'll piss me off if Orange Cassidy wins. And there's no way. I don't think he is. I think he will get a standing ovation once he loses that belt because of the work that he put in. I love fighting champions. And so that gains my respect a lot when you have fighting champions.
I think that's the plan, because Moxley's a great person to put the international title on, because he has a lot of international notoriety. You know, he's wrestled all over the world. Not that Orange Cassidy hasn't, but Orange Cassidy, you know, it's time to kind of make the international title kind of like it was when Pac had it. You know, when
it elevated more.
Yeah, wrestle on other shows.
It makes it a more main event title to me with it on Moxley than on Orange Cassidy.
Yeah,
it's still a relevant title and a fun title, but to me, it makes it more important when it's on the MVP of AEW, Jon Moxley. And I like that they're bringing that back. And I think BCC is kind of still hovering that, you know, babyface, heel, no nonsense vibes. I think when they had that battle with the Elite, it was kind of a clear babyface heel in a sense. Obviously they still cheered for them, but they were more ruthless to get some heat. But now they're starting to get that fan support back, you know, but they're still the no nonsense BCC, and I love it.
Well, your team babyface, Crayfish's
Always.
team heel. I think I'm team whatever that is because I can be a heel and a
Team
babyface.
BCC.
Yeah, maybe I'm team BCC. No, but like that is who Moxley is. Moxley's kind of like that Stone Cold where he's whatever you need him to be in the match. You know, like you could plug him in against Orange Cassidy and he'll play the heel. You could plug him in against MJF, or I guess now I don't know who would be the heel, but you could plug him in against the most babyface wrestler and he would play the heel perfectly without changing who he is. You could plug him in against the heelest heel and he would still be Moxley. And Eddie's almost the same way. And I think that's kind of what the appeal and the appeal of BCC. I mean, granted, I think Wheeler's really gone full heel. I think
For sure.
Claudio to a degree has kind of gone full heel, but Moxley's still Moxley. You know, no matter who he messes with, he's in. Kind of getting back to the OC Penta match. One, because I love the Lucha Brothers so much, I sometimes forget how great they are as an individual wrestler. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to check out QT Marshall's win over Penta in AAA. But
I saw that, but I did not catch the match. I saw
tremendous match, and I mean anybody that thinks QT Marshall can't go needs to watch this match. I mean, against Penta, QT Marshall held his own. Yes, he had some support from Aaron Solo, but that was irrelevant. QT Marshall is a deathmatch god.
Dang.
I mean,
I gotta watch it.
QT Marshall is legit, and that title he has is as legit as his spray tan. I'm telling you, QT Marshall is legit. Mark my words. And QTV, I can't wait for the next episode. But what another
legit
thing
is teeth whitening strips too.
Yeah, the crest whitening strips all the way, and I think a little bit of Aaron Solo's Banaka helps as well.
Okay.
Another thing though, it's interesting that you were bothered by the surprise roll up because I understand there's a logic to that bothering you. But do you know what the streets are upset with? What all the trolls are upset with right now on social media about that match?
Was it the Canadian Destroyers?
Too many Canadian Destroyers.
Give me a dozen of them. I don't care. I love that move.
That's like, threaten me with too many donuts, too many ice cream sandwiches, too many. Are you nuts?
A Canadian Destroyer to me is one of the most spectacular moves to watch because it's so hard to follow. Yeah. And then if you have someone that can sell as good as both those guys, I loved it. And to see like Dustin Rhodes do one and like see some of these other people do them, like it's so hard for me to, like I said, to follow, but I just love when Penta does them. They could have done 5 of them to each other back to back to back, and I still would have loved it.
I hope at All Out somebody, probably Trent or somebody, I hope they do like a series of 10 of them in a row. Just like, maybe at the Battle Royal, just do nothing but Canadian Destroyers for like 5 minutes. I think that would just send a message because I can't believe now. I know there's a segment of the online population that just has to complain. They have to find something. And I know that there's certain cultish mentalities where they hear somebody on the podcast hate on the Canadian Destroyer, so now they've got to hate on it, and they're not even sure why. But like, don't threaten me with a good time. Don't like really like. I guess the issue they're saying is, well, it used to be a finisher and now it's just used. Blah blah blah. I'm like, it's beautiful and it's fantastic. And how many times has somebody used their finisher and it's been a kick out? I mean, it's one of the most beautiful moves. Give me Canadian Destroyers all day long.
Agree. The first time, I think they might have been, the Lucha Brothers might have been the first time I've seen it done because I don't even know if anyone in WWE over the past 10 years really does that move.
Chelsea Green actually does, of all people. She does a Canadian Destroyer.
So when I was watching then and then stopped, and then I think they maybe reintroduced me or introduced me to a Canadian Destroyer, and I loved it. It's such a great move. What match do you want to talk about next? What's your next?
Well, Well,
Piggyback on some of your hot
can I
takes.
talk another segment? Can I go
Well, no, it doesn't have to be a match. Yeah, any
and-
segment.
And this leads into my armchair booking. Go to Mind Runner on Twitter, check out or you go to another wrestling podcast on YouTube, whatever. I don't know. Just look up armchair booking. One of my favorite characters right now. One of my favorite characters is Tony Storm, the fallen champion, the no longer the shoe throwing, broken actress. Like, and this just happened. Like it just evolved. Like usually, like characters develop when they lose the title, and when she lost to Sheeta, she turned into this classic like Betty Davis, Joan Crawford kind of just completely wrecked. And I think this is the building blocks of one of the most tremendous storylines that's going to come out if they don't mess this up.
Yeah, this is why I want to talk to you about your hot take, but keep going.
Yeah, but so the first of all, she's turned into the jealousy, like she's almost like Smeagol, like Gollum from Lord of the Rings and the Precious, and like they've already got the blueprint for this brilliant storyline,
right?
With Better Than You, Baby. Because now here's the situation: her group, the Outcasts. Now Saraya's got the title. Saraya. Great. We'll talk about that tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Great moment with her and her family. But now Saraya's got the title that Tony Storm desperately wants. And that's it's like you can see these segments where it's killing her.
Right.
So we're going to get those moments where, I think we're going to have those matches where Saraya and Tony Storm win over Sky Blue and Random Jones. But then like Tony Storm grabs the title and is going to give it to Saraya. And there's that moment where is she going to hit Saraya? And I think that if we continue to build some fire under that will they, won't they? And is she going to throw a shoe? I love that and I told Full Tilt Deb, because up until this point, it's only been Lexi Nair that she's thrown the shoes at.
Right.
But I said, is she gonna throw a shoe at Renee? And sure enough, shoe goes flying right at the end of the segment. What do you think? I mean, what do you think about that character that Tony's kind of become?
It is definitely growing on me every single week. Just the over the top drama, and I think she's really doing a great job with that character change over. But to piggyback on what you said, it got me thinking, because obviously there was a little altercation, what was happening all in, but I feel like I'm not ready for the Outsiders to break up. I want to, if they do, it needs to be a slow burn. And they got to, maybe they'll kind of make amends and hug it out, and so start supporting each other, and then kind of be refocused on, let's say, their trios, or like you said, a ultimate payoff at a 5-on-5, like we've always wanted, the Outsiders versus the OGs, because that was the way it was going. And I think they have so much to tell in that. And I think the Outsiders still right now is the only and best thing really going in the women's division right now, because you don't have strong storylines, and it showed it all in. Like there's no other storylines because there's one women's match, and you have. Now you have the Statlander Ruby match coming in, so there's a little bit of sidebar storytelling there. But Statlander has kind of been MIA for a few weeks as well, so there needs to be more storylines developed ASAP in that division, or it's gonna start crumbling. Which it sucks, because there's so much talent there that could have been, and that needs more time. And DMD is healthy, and Sheeta's back in the mix, and you can still just continue to trade matches with these Outsiders until you build up to that payoff, and then it will be so good. It's a frustrating division right now, in my opinion.
It is, and I can't put my finger on it. And again, keeping this positive, because I'm sure there's some backstage stuff that we don't know about, and the whole thing with Thunder versus Britt and all that kind of jazz, and Lou Fisto's grievances with what goes on backstage. But you're absolutely right. I have always felt like that AEW touts itself as a merit-based, if you're really showing, if you really are killing it, And
Yeah.
like the storylines that are really popular are the ones that make the pay-per-view. But there's been some inconsistencies with that. And there's so much potential how there could be such great storytelling in some of the men's matches, and there's so much potential for great storyline in the women's matches. And don't get me wrong, and like I want the Outcasts to stay together for as long as possible. That tension, that new layer, just like Better Than You, Bebe hasn't broken up. In fact, they've gone to a new direction. We'll talk about tomorrow. But like, I love that, that tension's going to continue to build it. But we need that build. Like, it's time to pull the trigger on the 5-on-5 blow off between the Outcasts and the OGs. And I know maybe Tony's waiting for Jamie Hayter to come back. You don't necessarily need Hayter back. You've got plenty of women ready to rock. You got Willow. You got all these things. But like, the way that they just, by the way, Statlander's going to get involved now and Russell Ruby Soho, it didn't make any sense. Like, you've got talents like Taya Valkyrie. You've got, the Bunny just came back, and you've got so many ways that you could really go that if you stepped back, you could really make the women's division one of the most compelling storylines going on. And like, there's so much to do. Coming soon, I have an armchair booking for another, in my opinion, unused talent that a lot of people, it might be controversial, but stay tuned for that. And in the women's division, but like another wrestler, Abaddon. Abaddon is so over outside of AEW, and yet we never see her. Like, people post all the time about her. I don't get it. I don't get it.
What's she doing that I'm missing on social, I guess? Is she doing indie shows, or is she just doing appearances?
She's doing indie shows, and she's doing she's doing indie shows. She's doing a lot of she's got the Patreon thing. She's showing a lot of videos of her training. Anytime anytime she makes a post, people are Abaddon, we miss you. And she's the first character alphabetically, but she's one of the first characters in the choose menu when you go to Fight Forever. She's up at the top. And like,
it's fun being a zombie wrestler, whatever you want to call her.
I think it would be cool if like Ruby's, like the Outcasts are fighting, the like Britt and Sheet or something, and Ruby goes to get like a chair from under the ring, and suddenly this zombie arm grabs her and pulls her under the ring.
That would be sweet.
And then Ruby comes crawling out with like scared out of her mind, and then have, like kind of like the Ring, have like Abaddon crawl out like this. And I don't know. There's such potential. You got Willow Nightingale. There's a lot going on in Ring of Honor. I think it's time, almost like one of these things where, when you I just subscribed to a gym membership. I haven't gone yet, but I've subscribed to it to make myself go, because it's like, now that I'm paying for it, I have to go.
Right.
I think you need that mentality with the women's division. Create women's titles so that it forces you to create a storyline around them. You feel me? Like, I think
you want tag titles, I take it.
Did I say women's tag title? That's
or
what I meant.
You said you create titles.
Create women's tag titles. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I think they could, with the 2 titles they have, they just need to feature them every single. Statlander was going on a nice little run. I think they should almost go into All Out or after All Out, kind of have like, you need surprises or you need something, and you need almost like keep some storylines, but like almost a division reset. You need something fresh, something really fresh after this. You have a fresh champ in Saraya. And then whatever's going to happen on Saturday, and you have all these people, like you said, that were not mentioned there. And so almost do they need to do like a battle royal to reintroduce us to some of these, because some people have been gone so long, like that way people can see what their division's all about. You're rinsing, repeating these people, which we like. I like the Sky Blues, the Willows, obviously the core people, DMD, Sheeta. But if you maybe do a battle royal just so you can showcase what this division has to offer, and then you can maybe create some battle royals. To me, are always fun because you can get those Oh, those two are fighting each other. Is that going to be
Yep.
a future feud? You can
Yeah.
create future feuds off of that, and that could be a good like reset in that sense.
That's how back in the day, that's how they started the Warrior Hogan feud. I remember when Warrior and Hogan turned to each other, the only two in the ring, and it's like, oh, it's coming. But here's the thing, and you know, people are going to complain that it's copying the men's division, but if it's not broke, fix it. Look at the magic, not just Better Than You, baby, but look at the magic that came out of that random tag team tournament. You had Brian Cage and Big Bill. You had what was the Butcher and Daddy Magic? They I forgot what was it, Magic Meat. You had Magic Meat. You had all these different tag teams come out. Do the same when you announce the women's tag team titles. Just have these random, pull these random names and have these teams, and you could even like be sneaky and somehow the outcasts get pulled together, like some little shenanigans. Hey, what's going on? But then you could bring in all these different female wrestlers have to tag together, and it's just like a battle royal. You see them like, oh yeah, Penelope Ford, oh yeah, the Bunny, oh yeah, Emi Sakura. Since we don't have Dark anymore, we need to feature these ladies and really get them a chance to shine.
You're right, absolutely right. I support it, and we'll see after All Out if we get some surprises. Because I'm a sucker for surprises. Always seeing if there's going to be a surprise debut, something like that. We didn't get any at all in with surprise debuts or re-debuts. Hopefully we'll get some at All Out, because when Crayfish and I went to All Out, I still stand by that being maybe one of my favorite pay-per-view. You know, All In obviously is fresh, but the All Out we went to in Chicago 2 years ago, I think was one of the best shows. I mean, I got Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks in a cage match for one. And then we had the double debut, Danielson and Adam Cole and CM Punk's fighting Darby. So it was like, I mean, there's way more in the card than that, but those are just like some of these like magic moments that were there. Having, seeing CM Punk in Chicago, that cage match, the double debut Swerve was such a huge, I mean, there's rumors and you can kind of feel it in the air, but to have the double debut was a huge moment, I think, in AEW history in terms of importance of adding to the roster. I can't remember the women's match, what it was, but
it's almost unfair. Wasn't it Britt Baker and Sheeta? I don't know. But it's almost unfair to compare other pay-per-views to what we just witnessed this past weekend, because that's almost like a separate of it. So like if you take what we just saw this weekend out, then that All Out was probably one of the best all time. Like that would probably be at the top. And it's kind of tough to think about. I mean, now that we've it's a good thing, but we've had so many years of AEW pay-per-views that they're kind of running together. It's like, oh, wait a minute, what was the main event then? What was that? Yeah. It's kind of a good thing.
Oh, so yes, on here I'm looking at the card. Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage.
Yep.
So that was the main event. You had CM Punk Darby, Jericho versus MJF. I remember that was the retirement match.
Yep.
Jericho would retire if MJF had beat him. Breaker versus Statlander. Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers. Right. Miro versus Eddie Kingston. Moxley versus Kojima. Paul White versus QT Marshall. And 21 woman casino battle royal for a future title shot.
That was the debut of Ruby Soho.
Yeah. Oh, so also triple debut. Triple debut. So jeez. And it was funny because we were yelling for QT, obviously being big fans, and then come to find out his wife was right in front of us. She kept looking back at us when we met her after the show. She was like, "Oh, they were yelling for you. They were cheering for you."
That's awesome.
But great show. Speaking of that, in that card segment, I want to talk about is the Adam Cole Bebe, and you're talking about Better Than You. It got me talking, and I think it's cool to see the Kingdom on TV, and I think they really did a great job with their promos last night. And this gimmick with the neck brace is starting to get over more and more. Roderick Strong, isn't necessarily a main event name that kind of is thrown around, but I know what he can do, and I think more fans are going to start to hate him more and more, and he's going to turn into this awesome, like, cheesy heel. I saw a tweet that someone saw him at the airport with his neck brace on.
Oh,
so
that's
he was
brilliant.
Keeping the gimmick alive.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, good. You know what? He's going to get over. The neck brace is going to be the new purple hat. You know,
It's
gonna be the
so
new
he's
thing.
probably laughing. They're all probably laughing about it backstage. But I think the segment of this is kind of been hinting for weeks, but I'm liking this where they're going to pivot to Kingdom feud with Adam Cole and what they were saying to him and the history and which friends he's choosing and, going to the Bullet Club and all this other stuff. So I love the way they kind of brought it back in that sense for those who didn't know much about it, which I didn't know much about it. And the Kingdom, it's good to see them featured. And so these guys as a trios that we need another trios in the trios division, in my opinion. And I think these group would be good. Where do you think if does turn into a 3-on-3 match, even though Roderick Strong said he's entering the tournament to go 1-on-1 with MJF, who do you think would team up with better than you, baby? Do they have any friends that they can recruit?
It's going to be Kylo Ren. Kyle O'Reilly's going to come back and be the third person on Team Baby.
Damn.
But
I miss him. He put on some awesome matches.
But I don't know if he's going to stay on their side, because is Kyle O'Reilly going to come back and then is he going to stay supportive of Adam Cole, or is he going to turn? Who knows? First of all, shout out to Matt Taven's wardrobe. I mean, what is going on there, dude? That's pretty cool.
Nice purple coat.
Roderick Strong. What's funny about Roderick Strong is he's never been the promo personality guy. He's almost a Lance Storm, but he's done what Lance Storm did, is turn the lack of, I don't say lack of personality, but that lack of thing into, it's okay. It's okay. He's made that the gimmick. Like, and Deb and I are calling him like, he's like Wayne's ex-girlfriend in Wayne's World. Like, hi, Wayne, like he can't quit Adam Cole, and he's like a jealous ex-lover, and this whole thing, that image right there sums up one of the greatest storylines we got going on, and I think that's tremendous. I think it will lead to a 3-on-3. I think it's going to be Kylo Ren, or Kyle O'Reilly is going to be their third, and then there's so many directions you can go from there. Does MJF start to get jealous of Kyle O'Reilly? Does MJF start sabotage? There's going to be so many directions you can go, but I hope they keep the Kingdom, that trios, because that could be, and Roderick can go to ROH and they can go after the trios titles there, or Acclaim needs a new set of foes. I have a different opinion on who their next feud should be with, but I think that I think this is great. It's setting up so much awesomeness, and it's just such a joy to watch. Plus kangaroo kick, double clothesline.
So since we'll move on from that segment, who do you have ideas for the Acclaimed?
I think we're getting LFO. I think this repackaging that Roosh is doing. Roosh is just re-signed. Which reminds me, okay, another name I can't believe I forgot to mention at the beginning when you're talking about who did we miss at All In? Andrade.
I was just gonna say,
Andrade. And
he even called out Malachi too. I know the storyline obviously is different, but man, he's been on a tear. He deserves to be on it.
Every time he's been on Collision, he's been over. Like the crowd is really behind him. His new outfit, so it doesn't take him 10 minutes to take off all his pinstripe suit. I think now. Let me ask you this: do you think he should go back and join Roosh, or should he kind of go his own way?
I think. While I think about that question, I would love to. I want to say I would love to see him versus Will Ospreay. That would be pretty amazing. That would be an amazing match.
Yeah.
Both guys are absolutely incredible, and I did like Andrade, Roosh, and Preston Vance together. And I know Roosh's brother is in and out of the group. I don't know if it's official or not, but based on the vignettes, it looks like it. They've been hanging out. It makes that group, as much as I like Roosh, and I think he's an awesome, great in the ring and absolutely a hard hitter. I think there's some substance to if you have Andrade join them, then they could even feud with Blackpool Combat Club, because that kind of heavy hitting, no nonsense from both the Blackpool Combat Club and the LFO would be pretty fun to watch. Now
Yeah.
the Acclaimed, I think they need some mid card challengers just to get their feet wet and keep going.
Yeah,
Because they're not losing anytime soon. And LFO, I would love to see some pretty strong momentum, some good wins, some just absolute beatdowns, and somehow tied into a group that's almost on that level in terms of physicality.
Didn't the what are they? I think they're called like the Righteous. The Stu Grayson just joined. It's like Rob Zombie and what's his and John Goodman from Oh Brother Where Art Thou. It's like the three of them together. It's like
the Bear Country guys.
No, not the Bear Country guys. The Righteous. It's like they dress all in white and they're kind of cultish. And they're Ring of Honor for so long, but they just like a couple weeks ago did like a little vignette where they introduced themselves, and they're going to be at this tag team battle royal. The two of them are going to be in this. So, you know, there's a trio right there with Stu Grayson, and Stu Grayson versus Roosh, or Stu Grayson versus anybody would be great. But imagine, I wonder having them versus the Acclaimed, if that would be it would introduce them, but it also gives the Acclaimed a less threatening trio to feud with while they're getting, like you said, getting their feet going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they need a few. They did have some great title defenses, but I think you gotta to keep them. They can't just do promos every week, so they're going to need a fight. They're going to need some talent that they can beat easily. Not squash. I don't really care for the squashes, but at least have some established trios that they can feud with and beat. But that aside, we're bouncing all over, but just the state of AEW. One thing I do want to touch, which I know we'll spend a little time on, is the CM Punk issue. The hot topic of one thing. We're talking to Crayfish, and I talked to our other buddy Nate, who was one of the OGs very, very early on with Dynamite Download for a little while. And we were talking about just the BS, what's up with the Meltzers and the Alvarezes and being on AEW's payroll, causing drama. And I think they're just releasing so much dirt for no reason. It's just hurting the company. And whatever happened with CM Punk, you're hearing so many conflicting stories. You're hearing Miro get in his face. No, wait, he didn't. Or this person doing it. And then, no, wait, they're not. It's like all these conflicting stories. It's almost like hurting the company as a whole by leaking all this stuff. Like, who's the leaker and how does this get out? And like, what is your theory on how all this yes, you have a full backstage of not just wrestlers, but I'm sure press pass people, but there's got to be like those guerrilla zones where it's literally talent only, AEW only, where you have the private stuff where no matter who's backstage should not be seeing this stuff. So like, I'm almost sick of these dirt sheet and this stuff going on. Like to me, it's a distraction from what the success is been generating.
You can't blame the dirt sheets, bro. I mean, they are what they are, but that's like blaming the person that told the teacher that shit was going on. I understand, but this illustrates that there's a problem with AEW. I mean, Meltzer's not on anybody's payroll. Brian Alvarez not anybody's payroll. Sean Ross Sapp, nobody's payroll. They are the media, and they are and they have their sources, and that's how they get their information. They get their clicks. There's more. Now, I'm not saying that they're always going to get it right, and a lie makes it halfway around the internet before the truth can get its shoes on. I mean, I understand all that, but the issues are there, and it's not just. I mean, it's not just the dirt sheets that are leaking this stuff. I mean, social media. If we saw like when people when talent makes these ranting posts about somebody, the whole Thunder Roaster Britt Baker thing, that was because of some tweets that leaked out. That was more, a lot of people are reporting on it and stuff, but it's the talent are the ones like, you can't get mad at the press for receiving information. That would be like getting mad at Julian Assange for what he heard from somebody.
But where do you think they're receiving this info from?
The talent. And and I think the talent feel a certain kind of way, and I think the talent feel a certain kind of way about Punk. I think there's some serious issues that Tony Khan's not addressing. Now, let me again preface. I love Tony Khan. I love AEW. And there's so many positives, and his passion as well as business sense is great. But the one thing that he needs, he needs to put his foot down, and he needs better communication. And like, I don't care if Jack Perry like pissed in CM Punk's hybrid car. If he should have handled that whole thing professionally, and he should have been diplomatic. Like, listen, we'll talk later, and set up a meeting another time and handled the situation. You can't get mad at the dirt sheets for reporting what people are telling them. I think you're right. I agree with you that a lot of this needs to be in-house, but in order to do that, you've got to have the structures in place for that. And I thought Tony Khan was going that direction by having Tony Schiavone as kind of this more mediator, being able to say the things that Tony Khan doesn't feel comfortable saying. That maybe they need a much more assertive person. Maybe they need to hire Samoa Joe to be Tony Khan's right hand, because it sounds like Samoa Joe was the one person CM Punk didn't want to fight for real backstage.
I'm surprised Jericho is not more of that role per se, of telling people to, stay in your effing lane and do this. And like, you would think he's been since day one, kind of, he could or is Tony's right hand man, but maybe he tries to, but as someone who is leading a company into astronomical growth, you need a set of brass balls, and you need to keep your company in line. It's not, you obviously take good care of your team and your staff, but you also have to run a show and run a business. It's not just all rainbows and sunshine, and you have to set a precedent, and you have to be a leader. And part of being a leader is dealing with conflict and making sure that the work environment is a stable and safe place. So obviously Punk's got a huge target on his back with many people. And I think maybe even the more success of the show of Collision, the target might get bigger and bigger for some, but it just surprises me that there isn't more. There probably is a lot of, I'm on this side, you're on this side, lined in the sand backstage, when you're starting to see like the regulars on Collision and the supporters and the CMFTRs grow. It's just it's unfortunate. And where CM Punk goes from here, Tony danced around the question in his media call today. And so if what's true that we're seeing really did happen, there's two sides to everything. If Jungle Boy approached CM and CM was in defense, okay, great. I would maybe do the same thing if someone was getting in my face and maybe push me or, bump me. Like, okay, yeah, naturally to react. You guys, everyone who's a wrestler is a physical fighter. Like, that's like their, it's in their blood. So I don't know. What do you make of everything you've reading of what is going to happen?
Well, you're right. There's actually three stories. There's actually three versions. There's this side, and then the truth is in the middle somewhere. That's kind of what you're saying. And the common denominator in all these things has been Punk. If this was if this is a one-time thing, you could blow it off as two hot-headed guys and it happened, something like that. I think though, this is a symptom of giving Punk's too much control of Collision. And we don't know what the legal contracts were. We don't know what was signed. The moment that CM Punk got litigious over the fallout from All Out, that's what got dicey, because up until that point, I think it's something that could have been handled behind closed doors. But to create that separation, I think you're exasperating the issue rather than dealing with it. You're not settling anything. There's nothing settled with it, because now you got, and to the point, CM Punk will make a comment like, "No, we don't do that. You go do that on the B show," referring to Dynamite as the B show. those kind of comments are just, he might be thinking, hey, I'm being snarky, but people, Dynamite, a lot of people cut blood and tears and sweat on that show, and it's not necessary to create a divide when it's not needed.
Right.
I think Punk is a narcissist, but I say that as a diagnosis, not a slam, if you understand what I'm saying. That's not a negative, but I think a
spade you're calling.
Yeah, I think he's self-absorbed. And what that means is that a lot of times he takes things too personal when he really shouldn't. Also, Full Tip Deb made a very interesting point that a lot of these incidents have happened when CM Punk is in wrestle mode. And like, I wonder if he struggles with, like, how some method actors stay in character even off the set, like Daniel Day-Lewis was Lincoln throughout the entire filming. In Succession, the actor that played Kendall Roy stayed as Kendall Roy while they were filming that show, and to the point where it annoyed Brian Cox. Brian Cox was like, "Yeah, clown, why don't you get out of character?" That kind of thing. But like, I wonder if CM Punk, like because this happened right before he was going out for the Samoa Joe match.
Could you even imagine?
Yeah, right. So I
couldn't even imagine.
I just think that I think that CM Punk might get I wonder if he kind of like he's almost in an Eddie Kingston way, where he's kind of blurring the line between CM Punk the wrestler and CM Punk the locker room leader. And I think that there's some issues that he needs to work out on his own, but separate from that, there's some issues that AEW could have prevented a lot of this, and specifically Tony Khan way back before All Out. I think Tony Khan got a little starstruck and probably promised CM Punk the moon, because that was such a great moment. I mean, and I don't never want to take away from that. That was such a great moment when with the first dance. Yep. But CM Punk is not the draw that he used to be. He is a draw. And there's a lot of CM Punk shirts out there. There's a lot of diehards, and I'm not taking him away. And it is, and what he has done on the camera, not after the match when he's talking about Hangman being a peg warmer, but the stuff that he's done, he's making lemonade out of lemons. Like he's trying really hard not to let the fans booing him get to him. He's saying the right things. But you can't have him in charge of Collision. It's conflict of interest. It's kind of like, yeah, you can have EVPs, but he shouldn't be able to tell Christopher Daniels, the head of talent relations, that he's not allowed at Collision. Right. He shouldn't be allowed to make some of the calls that he makes, and Tony Khan's allowing that. And I think that needs to be fixed, or there's going to continue to be problems. I think there's a lot of truth in what Lou Fisto said about her experience. I think there's some things that she said that probably didn't happen the way she remembers. Right. But there are some backstage, and this has been going on in wrestling for so long, but it's kind of like growing pains that AEW is growing so fast it hasn't had a chance to really solidify. Plus, on top, Tony Khan loves his talent. He loves he hugs them. I think he genuinely cares about them, and it hurts him to try to give them bad news. That's why, when you're not getting a call from Tony Khan, or he's putting you on red, that means I think your days are numbered at there. But that's CM Punk the whole situation is a symptom of some bigger issues behind the scenes that need to get fixed, and they need to get fixed, or you're really going to, it's really going to spoil this wonderful thing that we have.
Yeah. I mean, as a babyface, I want everyone to get along. But at what point enough is enough? Like, even though if you have a star player on a hockey team, you have to sometimes cut ties because it's not good for the whole team. It happens in sports all the time. CM Punk, I think, is a draw. I don't think he is the draw, especially at the success that we've been seeing with other people such as the Bullet Club Gold.
We know who the draw is, man.
Right, exactly. That being said, I hope. I mean, we'll find out more hopefully soon, as Tony Khan said. But I mean, suspensions and drama like that is not good for anybody. And you almost got to put like strike system, like 2 strikes already. I mean,
Yeah.
what more? What more is it going to take for? Is this just going to be a rinse and repeat in a couple months? If you have to walk on eggshells by like putting certain people on certain shows and not letting people interact with others. So it was interesting because all that aside, CM Punk right after was an elite match. So you would think on paper the elite and CM Punk at least cross paths close to the entrances. So Kenny Omega there because the Kenny Omega match was next. Correct me if I'm wrong. After that CM Punk match,
the rumor was they were going to start
unless
the
they
show.
literally like, no, you go this way. They're coming this way.
Well, the rumor was that they were going to like if CM Punk didn't if they didn't resolve that issue, that the Golden Elite match was going to start the show. And it's kind of interesting too if you rewatch when Samoa Joe comes out for his match, he's got Jack Perry's blood on him. Like he's actually got on his
I saw
arm.
a photo of that, but I didn't even notice that. And
Yeah.
damn, that is so wild.
Because at the time we didn't know what happened behind scenes, but like there's Samoa Joe's already got blood, and I'm just like, oh man, all right, what's going on there?
So before we're gonna wrap up and we're gonna have our all in, all out preview recap show, I want to, as a little thing to think about for both of us, if you had to pick your top 3 matches of All In, what 3 matches were your top 3 as we wrap things up?
Off the top, it's so funny. Off the top of my head, the main event was great.
Okay.
The Darby Sting coffin match versus Swerve and Christian Cage was great. I thought that was tremendous. And the Stadium Stampede I thought was great. But again, it's like choosing who are the best looking supermodels. It's like, there were so many great matches. There was not a single match that I felt like was lacking in any way. That was great.
I agree. It was a strong card top to bottom. But if I had to pick 3 in no particular order, would be Jericho Ospreay, which that one surprised me the most.
Yeah.
Based on how well Jericho did, my guy. Tag match for the tag titles. And I think I like the CM Punk Samoa Joe match too.
Mm-hmm.
A close 4th would have been the trios with the Elite.
Yeah,
But those are I think those are my 3. And you could roll a Yahtzee cup and pick 3 and be like, yeah, I agree, those 3. But
what's so funny is you and I both named 3 different matches,
right?
Like from the card, and I could, and I'm not in my head as you're saying yours. Like, yeah, those are great. So
for sure. Honestly, I mean, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but that's some great stuff. Our preview show is tomorrow night, Friday night, flights and fights. It's almost like when we used to do our Friday night shows. And
we got to bring the beverages tomorrow night, man.
Oh yeah, I'm going to bring the beverages for sure tomorrow night. Cola. It's Friday to the weekend, and then we're gonna we had such a great time slot back in the day because AEW had to take it with Rampage. So our old 10 o'clock time slot, but we're going to be earlier tomorrow. But thanks a lot. And we will see everyone tomorrow. Crayfish is going to be joining us. Got the full squad. The trios are back in action for an awesome jam-packed show. We're going to be talking a lot of wrestling tomorrow. So make sure you tune in to Dynamite Download right here live on YouTube. Woohoo! It's all about the boom.